Let's get into the book, Trevor Book Club. I know you love reading, and I was fascinated by your list of books that you're reading. Could you please do share those books with us and why you're reading them?
Well, it's books that I've read. The African Origin of Civilization by Dr. Cheikh Anta Diop, Myth or Reality, is probably one of the most fascinating books and one of the books that built me as a young person. It built and shaped my understanding of the world and my place in it as a black person. It speaks generally about the ancient Egyptians, because we know, for example, that there were no Arabs in Africa until 600 AD. So who were those people who were there? You know, they were not Phoenicians, they were not Babylonians, they were black people like you and me. But, you know, if you look at history that's written by French writers like Champollion and so on and so forth, you will find that there is a deliberate attempt to make Africans feel inferior because they've got such a rich history, right? But by the same token, for Africans to get the respect of people across the world, we don't need to create some primordial, pristine history where we are all kings and queens just to be able to get human dignity. So this book basically debunks all of these myths about who Egyptians were and how we are actually all descendants of people from Egypt, from ancient Kemet. It speaks about Akhenaten, who I think is one of the most important Egyptian pharaohs of all time. He's the father, he's credited as the father of monotheism, although he was described as a heretic during ancient Egyptian times because he moved them away from the idea of a one god to the idea, from the idea of many gods to the idea of one god. So Akhenaten is the son of Aten, and Aten being god. And Queen Nefertiti is his wife, and Tutankhamun, whose tomb gave us all these treasures about Egypt and all this information. So I think that's a very important book and should actually be taught in African curricula.
That's what you say, yeah?
Yeah. And
it sounds like.
It's a very, very important book. So, and Cheikh Anta Diop is probably a once-off because in the 1940s and 50s, he was a nuclear physicist, a black man in Senegal, one of the few to ever actually attain that at that time. And I mean, now they come a dime a dozen. But Cheikh Anta Diop, very important. And then closely related to that, I should have mentioned Secrets of the Exodus by these two Jewish boys, Roger and Mesut Saba. They carry on from what Cheikh Anta Diop was saying, and they even include testimonies from people like Herodotus, who is credited as the father of history. When Herodotus went to Egypt, he actually literally said, the people's skin is like the color of the soil. The color of the soil in the Upper Nile is black. Yeah, you know, in the Lower Nile, right, because it's up there. The color of the soil in the Lower Nile Valley is black, complete black, and he described them to the T. And a lot of people don't know that Pythagoras, all of those things were borrowed from Africa. But, you know, we don't know that, and I think it has an impact on how we see ourselves, how we view ourselves as Africans, as citizens of the world, and understanding that you are more than the sum of your current circumstances. You know, Africa is a pariah in global discussion, in global conversations, even in the collective global consciousness. The moment you mention Africa, you're thinking about children with kwashiorkor and big stomachs and flies everywhere. And I feel like we need to change that narrative. We need to, but that starts with understanding where we come from. And I don't think there's enough of that. Yeah.
And the other book is The Beautiful Ones Are Not Yet Born.
Yeah, by Akweyama. I read that book at a time when, again, I think it was part of my, I wouldn't say political awakening, but like the arousal of my consciousness as a black person and someone as a political actor in my head anyway. It's literally post-independent Ghana and the same circumstances that we find ourselves in. Politicians in Mercedes-Benz, people don't have this and that. I mean, you can read The Beautiful Ones Are Not Yet Born by Akweyama, you can read Why We So Blessed Again by Akweyama, and the message is the same. And you begin to ask yourself, what is it about Africa that we need to do to rid ourselves of this thing? Because it's neo-colonialism. It's literally the continuation of colonialism, but just using different masters. How is it possible that people driving around in Mercedes-Benzes when your own people are still suffering?
We're doing it to ourselves.
We're doing it to ourselves.
Yeah.
So at some point, it's actually not at some point. That conversation has been had, but the people who are adorned with the instruments of power do not care. You know, they don't listen to the voices of the voiceless.